So the book I'm going to share with you is called Rosie, Revere, Engineer by Andrea Beaty, illustrated by David Roberts. And if you're in my third grade classroom, we have read some of these books and we really like them. We've also read one or two of the chapter books. Get ready to read Rosie, Revere, the Engineer. It is an AR book. So you want to zoom in on that information. This is the story of Rosie Revere, who dreamed of becoming a great engineer. In Lila Greer's classroom at Blue River Creek, young Rosie sat shyly, not daring to speak. Why do you think she was so shy? I can tell you, we don't like shy people in the third grade, do we? But when no one saw her, she peeked in the trash for treasures to add to her engineer stash. And late at night, Rosie rolled up her sleeves and built in her hideaway under the eaves. Alone in her attic, in the moon high above, dear Rosie made gadgets and gizmos she loved. And when she grew sleepy, she hid her machines far under the bed where they'd never be seen. When Rosie was young, she had not been so shy. She worked with her hair swooping over one eye and made her fine inventions for uncles and aunts, a hot dog dispenser and helium pants. There's Rosie. There's the hot dog dispenser. I don't think I'd want helium pants, do you? The uncle she loved was a zookeeper, Fred. She made him a hat to keep snakes off his head. And you know how I feel about snakes. I definitely have to have a hat like that. From parts of a fan and some from cheddar cheese spray, which everyone knows keeps pythons away. I did not know that. And when it was finished, young Rosie was proud, but Fred slapped his knee and chuckled out loud. He laughed till he wheezed and his eyes filled with tears, to all the horror of Rosie Revere, who stood there embarrassed, perplexed, dismayed. She looked at the cheese hat and then looked away. I love it, Fred hooted. Oh, I truly do. But Rosie knew that could not be true. She stuck the cheese hat on the back of her shelf, and after that day, she kept her dreams to herself. How do you think poor Rosie Revere's feeling after he laughed at her? And why did she put it on the shelf? And that's how it went till one autumn day, when her oldest relation showed up for a stay. Her great-great Aunt Rose was a true dynamo who worked building airplanes a long time ago. She told Rosie's tales of things she had done and goals she had checked off her list one by one. She gave a sad smile as she looked to the sky. The only thrill left on my list is to fly. But time never lingers as long as it seems. I'll chalk that one up to an old lady's dreams. So here's her aunt thinking when she worked on the airplanes, what it was used to be like. And she's talking to Miss Rosie Revere. That night as Rosie lay wide-eyed in bed, a daring idea crept in her head. She could build a gizmo to help her aunt fly. Could she? She looked at the cheese hat and said, "No, not I." But questions are tricky and some hold on tight, and this one kept Rosie awake through the night. So when dawn approached and the red streaks lit the sky, young Rosie knew just how to make her aunt fly. Wonder what that idea is gonna be. Any ideas? She worked and she worked till the day was half gone, and then hauled her cheese copter out on the lawn to give her invention a test just to see the ridiculous flop it might turn out to be. I don't think Rosie's still feeling too positive. Strapped into the cockpit, she flipped on the switch. The Hello Cheese Copter sputtered and twitched. It floated a moment and whirled round and round. Then it froze for a heartbeat and crashed to the ground. Poor Rosie Revere. I really like how the words act like they're flying too. Then Rosie heard laughter and turned round to see the old woman was laughing and slapping her knee. She laughed till she wheezed and her eyes filled with tears, all to the horror of Rosie Revere, who thought, "Oh no, never, not never again will I try to build something to sputter or spin, or build with a lever or a switch or a gear, and never will I be a great engineer." Poor Rosie Revere. She turned round to leave, but then great Aunt Rose grabbed a hold of young Rosie and pulled her in close and hugged her and kissed her and started to cry. "You did it! Hooray! It's the perfect first try. This great flop is over. It's time for the next." Young Rosie was baffled, embarrassed, perplexed. "I failed," said dear Rosie. It's just made of trash. Didn't you see it? The cheese copter crashed." "Yes," said her great aunt, "it crashed, that is true. But first it did just what it needed to do. Before it crashed, Rosie, before that, it flew." brilliant first flop was a raging success. Come on, let's get busy, on to the next. She handed a notebook to Rosie Revere, who smiled at her, and as it all became clear, life might have its failures, but this was not it. The only true failure comes if you quit. There's Rosie's notebook, and there's all her plans. They worked till the sun sneaked its way to bed. Aunt Rosie tied her headscarf around Rosie's head and sent her to sleep with a smile ear to ear to dream the bold dreams of a great engineer. Look at this. We can do it. We've talked about that a lot this year, third grade. You can do anything you set your mind to. At Blue River Creek, all the kids in grade 2 build gizmos and gadgets and do hippies too. With each perfect failure, they stand and cheer, but none quite as proudly as Rosie Revere. So what do you think the moral or the theme or the lesson was in this story about Rosie Revere? Well, it even said it in this story, third grade, or whoever's listening, in the book. This is the theme. Life might have failures, but the only true failure comes if you quit. So the theme is never give up. Keep trying. And you can do it. Never give up.